Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. I'm your host, Alex from TechnoBlock, and this episode is going to be the question and answer period from our live recording with Josh GIllow from Yes Express. They do sales and design consulting for outdoor living industry. Josh is extremely knowledgeable, and we opened the field up to any questions from our audience. We got some great ones. If you did not listen to the episode prior to this one, that is the interview with Josh. So it might put some of these questions and answers in a little more context for you. So you might want to hit back on your podcast player and hit that one first. And if not, enjoy this episode, and hopefully you get a lot of great value out of this. Sales tips, marketing tips, and processes, where to focus that time and energy to build a better business. Hope you enjoy, guys. Now we'll open up to questions. If anyone has any questions, I mean, it could be sales, it could be marketing, it could be construction, it could be design, it could be whatever you want. We're here to help.
As far as SOPs, scaling, obviously in every company, it's different. You run into hurdles and so forth. Your best 3 SOPs on scaling with having 44 employees.
So the top 3 that I'd be focusing on would be obviously getting your sales dialed in, not just for the numbers and, the relationship to those numbers, but is your sales team all speaking the same narrative? Or is Joe talking one way and Sam talking a different, and, Brenda talks a different way, right? They have different ways and they each have their own pitches. Do they all speak the same narrative of the company? The one thing that we do is what's called an About Me section, where we build a, it's basically like a mission statement for the business, but it's where everyone is saying the same basic things, understanding that clients, they have deep fears that they don't always communicate, right? They just have them built into them, and we got to be able to hit those ahead of time. And what we don't want to do is ignore them, because it could blow the sale, right? If there's deep fears. But we also don't want to talk over them with big words. So designers are often really, really good at acting like, like all these big words, and, oh, we want a melodic movement through the backyard, and we want this, this, and this. And what happens is the client is stuck on that word, trying to put that interesting word in that framework. They're processing what does that mean? What does that mean? You're 3 sentences further, they missed most of what you said.
They're stuck back there.
Yeah. You're forcing them to burn calories to figure out what that is, and they're missing your point. So it's about having a unified conversation through the sales and having a process. I'm sure at 40-some employees, you have some form of a process at this point, but having it dialed in to make sure that you're nailing down and being most efficient with your salespeople's time. Because the average in the industry for closing at this point is about 25 to 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, we land 1 out of 4.
Mm-hmm.
That means 3 of them are wasted. You're paying that person to do that at that point, right? You're still paying them to run all over the place. And if you have an hour to the place, an hour with the client, and an hour back, that's 3 hours. That's 3 hours that you can't bill for.
Right. Times 3 prospects
exactly.
to get 1.
And if you have a whole sales force doing that same thing, there is so much waste there.
Mm-hmm.
With my company, I realized at a certain point that either I was going to spend more on marketing and send it through a broken machine that I was only pulling down 30 or 40%, right?
A funnel full of holes.
Exactly. And it's like just push more through it, or I was going to stop and I was going to say, look, how can I help with the throughput? How can I help get more to stick in the middle?
Mm.
And that's when I hired a sales coach. And I said, his name was Dan. I was like, Dan, here's what I'm doing. He's like, well, no wonder they're going through. Here's what we need to do. But it required me to show that I didn't know what I was doing fully. I had to admit that to myself. I had to pony up thousands of dollars to hire this guy to yell at me. He was a drill sergeant, and he would have me do video work, which I hated seeing videos and all that of myself. He's like, now shoot me a video and say it like this. And I'd be like, I hate looking at myself in a camera. I don't like this at all. And he's like, do it again. But doing that over, I remember 4 o'clock in the morning practicing before I went on with him, because if he would just cut you right through. But I needed that. I needed that honesty, because everyone else is like, everything is fine. Like, no, it's not. I got a problem in the middle of my business. I'm putting money in here and I'm getting a little bit out of the back, but there's something in the middle. There's a bottleneck. Yeah. So with that, we worked for a few months together, and I retooled, took what I was doing, added some of his stuff, put it together. And within 1 year of doing that, we doubled sales. And I was like, and I didn't spend $1 more on marketing. I was like, wait a minute here. It's So I must be talking to the right people. We got that dialed, and I know the avatar. And now I know how to communicate better with them. So what I struggled with was I got to spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for this guy. What if it doesn't work? You know, it's the same thing with our event.
Yeah.
We have people coming through, or even classes. They're like, you want $4,000 for 6 days of time? I can't. I'd rather go out and buy that shiny new saw. I'd rather go out and buy a tool because I can look at it. I can sit there with my buddies and everything. Like, look
feel
what I
better
bought.
because I see it.
Look at that. That's pretty cool. I just bought that.
Yeah.
The soft skills is where the money's at, dude. That's what I learned the hard way. And I was like, wait a minute here. So I took $4,000, $5,000 investment with him, and in 1 year turned into $1 million in revenue, $200,000 to the bottom line. And I'm like, would you do that deal every day? 1,000 times over, right?
$6,000 into 200 clean in my pocket. Yeah.
4,000 out, 200 in?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
So like we talked about before, investing in yourself.
Yeah.
I put a stipend, even for me, not just for me, but also for my entire staff, for them to be constantly growing. We tell them, go to Tony Robbins, we'll pay for it. Go to this event. We even host events now. Send them out, because if they're growing as humans and you are part of that catalyst of growth for them, they show up better as wives, as husbands, as all the way around, sons and daughters, and they get that at work, what's the chance of them sticking around? Pretty good. And you think they'll work for more or less at that point, in order, not that we're trying to do that.
Right. No, but
it's not about the money is my bigger point.
There's more value.
Because money is the lowest form of currency. They want a tribe. They want someone they can be on a mission with.
Right.
And that kind of mission comes from the fact that everyone buys into this concept. Not everybody's going to. Someone is not going to work that way, but the right ones will. So to answer your question in the longest way possible.
That's process one.
My point is creating that standard operating procedure by getting your whole team involved and having a process for selling and all of that at one together, and everyone's moving in that same direction, is going to help you go to the next level that way. And the next thing is what I would say is, how is your customer experience? Thinking from very beginning to very end. When I started creating SOPs in my group, I started thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? There's 1,000, 2,000 steps from the time they call to the end of the project.
All the touch points.
It's like
all the people they interact with, all the things they interact with.
So how do we even quantify that? Since I'm doing it out of my head, I'm shooting off the hip every day.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to? So I said, Becky, her name was, she came in, been like 7 years now, God bless her heart. She comes in and we're like, how are we going to do this? We're like, every single step of our process, we're going to create one piece of paper, even if it has one word on it, and we're going to put them in order. And we're going to think through as a group, what's the best order for this? And then we move papers around. And eventually we would create triggers, which is when a payment would come through. So this box of things go here. That's one SOP up to this point. Then we go out and we meet with a client. We get a check. Boom, that triggers the next piece. No check, no trigger.
Yeah.
Then we get a deposit for the project itself. That's the next trigger, and it moves all the way through.
Yep.
So that we know, okay, we're not going to do steps 19 and 20 before 3 and 4.
Basically a sequence of workflows.
Simple, right? It is that
Just
simple.
like building anything, right? Like, first we
Same thing.
take the measurements, establish the grades, mark it out, start excavating. Measure the elevations. Okay, complete excavation. Then we it's the same thing. You think about it from the perspective of the client. What are they seeing? What are they experiencing the whole way? And document it, map it out. And that's going to make your sales process more efficient too, because now the experience that they're going through is controlled. It's what you want the ideal customer to experience. And then your sales pitch and sales process is dialed in. So the one-to-one interactions that are happening are consistent. So now all of a sudden you have a more predictable model for like, okay, well, for every 4 customers, 1 pops out, or 4 prospects, 1 customer pops out. You know that's going to happen. You're not hoping it's going to happen. What's the third one?
So again, customer experience is an important part, making sure you know how to move it through and that each of your touch points with your client enhances that experience, because that's what our clients want now, especially in this market. That's going to stand out when they know you actually care. That would be that. And then obviously deliverable would be the SOP on the end would be, all right, how are you most efficient within the actual construction of the process? You guys do a lot of design build, or you design manage, or a combination?
Yeah, it's filtering all of the information. Like you said, there's 2,000 pieces of the puzzle that you have to start from point A, but how do we execute it flawlessly so that from that initial signing of a customer saying, wow, I can't wait to have a great backyard, to making sure that's the same feeling they have when that's completed.
Yep. It's building in those, we call them safeguards throughout. Like if, for instance, if a client falls off the map from us, and it happens sometimes, right? You present everything and they disappear. Life happens.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Just let it go? Or is there You're going to be that guy like, hey, you ready to buy now? Are you ready to buy now? Hey, I'll give you a discount. Buy now. Nobody likes that stuff. Nobody wants that. So it's a matter of, hey, Mrs. Jones, you know, I know 2 months ago we talked about this project and I know you were looking to do something. You had to find financing, whatever. How is that going for you? I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to talk to you. How's it going? Well, we can't pull the trigger right now. My daughter needs braces. We can't do that. All right, that's no problem. It's fine. We're here when you're ready. I'm ready when you're ready. But keeping that conversation going, but having a protocol in place. Like what I mentioned about having all of those pieces of the SOP put into boxes and then triggers to separate them, that then becomes your box. Everything in there, Alex, is you. And if it doesn't work, come to me and we'll talk about it. Because nothing works forever. Change is the only constant. What worked before during COVID now isn't working the same. Even in sales processes, we say, okay, because we're doing this actively daily. And we're looking at it like, hey, you know what? That used to work, but now it's not. Now we need to readjust. People need more time. They're not in such a hurry. So now let's go through and figure out how we can deliver now with today's economy, today's world, because that keeps changing. So I'd say those are the three to focus on. One thought would be, if you're out there thinking like, when the heck am I ever have time to build sales processes? Well, you can take on that enormous task. That's fine. Or with any SOP, you can buy it done, compress decades into days. And just take it and be like, all right, I'll train on that, and boom, out we go. Got a new guy, send him in, train, sell, train, sell. That's the goal of it, right? To keep it simple so the business owner can focus on running a business, not trying to train everybody to do all the stuff that he's doing because he's probably not the best at it, even though he wants to think he was. Because there's others that do things even better.
I think that's another tricky thing too, though, is like you might be really good at something, but you don't even have a process mapped out in your own head because it's just
shooting from the hip.
Experience and trial and error. And you know, it's like walking around your house with the lights go out, you know, power's out, it's pitch black. You can still get to the breaker panel and see what's up without a flashlight. You know, because you've navigated it so often, it's hard to communicate that to people. So building the processes or hiring someone that can help build that process, working together with your team to build the process, whatever the process is, that's the way to do it, to build something that can live on its own and flourish on its own.
Business is a team sport. It's that simple. And it's one of the only sports that anyone can be amazing at and win, right?
True.
So that's what I love about business. It's the only sport I'm good at, right? But when you think about it and you have that opportunity to say, okay, how can I build a team? Well, are you going to hire people to be those mentors for you? Or go out there and find the best and bring them in. That's what I've done. It took me a while to get used to that idea, but now I spend an enormous amount of money every year to be around people that are doing what I want to do. If I can get close to people that are doing what I want, the high probability some of that's going to come off, right?
Yeah.
So success leaves clues and proximity is power.
Yeah.
So you get around people that are doing amazing things, and next thing you know, you start doing amazing things. And if you look around, the 5 people you spend the most time with it's the kind of person you're going to become. So be careful at who you choose to keep in your circle.
I guess we'll take one more question.
So I'd like to know if you have advice on how to build the best, most simple process to CRM management.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, best process to building customer relations management. Yeah.
The best process, are you talking like a software type thing or just a tangible soft skill?
How do you stay on top of it? Or
yeah,
like,
just how you stay on top of it. Just like a simple process to implement.
Do you mean like
a simple system?
Springtime comes or late winter comes, like basically what, 2 more weeks and the phone's going to start blowing up and the emails are going to start flying in and the forms on your website are going to start piling up. How do you do that properly? How do you run that efficiently and not bleed opportunities out the back door? Is that what you mean?
That too, but more just maintaining relationships with your previous clients.
Okay.
It's about changing your priority. Like I said before, when you're focused on transaction, the client happens to be part of that. When the client becomes a center through a transformational mindset, next thing you know, all points lead back to her or him or both. I know that sounds really general and vague, and I'm sure that's super. I'm sure that's super helpful. Start by, like I mentioned before, falling in love with your clients. And I know you already do that, or you wouldn't be here because you're want to learn, right? So it's getting deeper in with those clients, asking those great questions. Like, for instance, one of the big things that we talk about is that in our process, we do this thing called life effect. So during our call, so we do all of our work in the office before we ever go out to site. We get budget on the phone. We have a 3-step process. You get budget every time before you ever leave. So you can determine whether this project is going to be worth your time or not. If Mrs. Jones has a $5,000 budget and she has a $50,000 list, with some time we have to have that conversation. Let's do it on the phone. So I'm not burning 3 hours. I can do it in 15 minutes, right? So let's get into those deeper conversations. So life effect is one of the pieces we use through this call structure that helps you get a better sense of why she's doing this project. Because armed with why, you can now understand how to craft a conversation to her so she can understand it. So if her goal is to, say for instance, she wants to do a patio. She just says she wants to do a patio. You're like, all right, I'll build you a patio, but what's she going to do with it? So you ask her a question, what are you going to do with this patio? Well, I'm going to put stuff on it. That's helpful. I'm going to put some furniture on it. That's even more helpful. Going deeper than that. So that's why we call it life effect. All right, Mrs. Jones, imagine it's a beautiful summer day. And you walk out onto this perfectly new finished patio that we just finished. You open those doors, you walk out. What does the space have to look and feel like for you to know this project was an absolute success? And then we do what's called STFU, and you guys can figure that out, right? And you just quiet. Silence is important. There's certain times to be silent, and there's certain times to talk. This is not one. You just be quiet. And she will then feel the need to speak, or he will, or both of them. Well, I'd really love a patio that I can walk out to, and I can bake in the hot sun like a seal, because I was raised in the South, and I love it. But right now we have a lot of trees, and I just can't do that. And so that's what I really want to do. Okay, why is it important to you? Well, because I really enjoy it. We don't want to put a pool in, but we do want to do that. And my husband and I love doing that kind of stuff. So we worship the sun. That's what we want to do. As they're talking like this, the designer in me is already planning their space. They're giving me everything I need to design exactly what they want because I've asked them and they've told me. I don't have to guess. Maybe a sun chair here or there. We know there's sun chairs, and with 3D software, there's going to be people in there that are going to be sunning themselves. And if she mentioned that she likes to read while she's doing that, guess what's going to be in her hand? You know what I mean? So you talk about connecting. It's every single process. It's from the very beginning. Connecting, asking those deeper questions. That's what we train on. Asking when to ask them, what to ask, what it means, how to unpack those things. And then from there to follow through. When we go out to the meeting, if they've gone through the process, and it's a 3-step process, pretty simple. But when you get to the point of actually putting boots on the ground, when we get to site, we know that we have a 90% chance or more of bringing that client home into our family, right? We know that we have a 90% chance or more of doing that. If not, then we're not going. And we teach you exactly how to get to that point. My bigger point is when we get to that meeting, we do what's called up the ladder. We take what we've learned, what we've mined during our conversation as the detective, as the guide, and we sit down at the table and say, Mrs. Jones, beautiful home. This is amazing. Like, I can't wait to start talking about this project with you. But I remember on our call, you mentioned that you wanted to put a patio in the backyard so you could sit out there and bake like a seal and read a book on a Sunday afternoon. Did I hear that right? Yeah, that's exactly. And Mr. Jones, you mentioned that you wanted a barbecue big enough to roast a pig on because you are constantly out there maintaining these immense, entertaining events that you love to do because you're the guy. Exactly. Did I get that? Yeah, exactly right. And Mrs. Jones, you mentioned when you're out on that patio baking like a seal, you have a neighbor that they just built a house next to us, right next to you guys, and you need some privacy because you don't want to feel like you're on display like you live in a fishbowl. Did I hear that right too? Absolutely. Using their words back to them. What's the likelihood of that client thinking, he actually listened to me? Huh. You think anybody else is doing that? Did it take any skill? You just had to ask questions, being curious. The next thing you know, you say those 3 things, and then you say, okay, is there anything else I missed? They tell you a few more things. All right, take me to the backyard. Show me what's on your mind. Then they start showing you, and you can go through. And the one thing I say to everybody that's going out to do this, meeting with people, I was taught in the beginning, don't share your best ideas because they're just going to take them somewhere else. And I thought, okay, let me try that. Let me just go out and just be like, yeah, I'd put a patio there and some privacy over there, and I'd put that barbecue there. How does that sound? Client's like, not very good.
Yeah.
And I was worried somebody would steal from me. What good is that information? If they don't hire me,
you're not helping them.
I'm not helping them. So if they don't hire me, that's dead.
Yep.
So why not give them the best damn show they've ever seen? Why not tell them exactly what you would do there? Paint them the picture using their words. Paint the picture for them. They are going to see your physiology. They're going to see your excitement for their project. You think you have a higher or lower chance of closing a project where they think you're actually in love with this project?
Significantly higher.
Exactly. So give them your best show. And if they don't buy, that's not on you. You did your best. That's all it is.
The ideal customer for you.
Exactly. But each of the, to answer
You have
your
to learn
question
from that too, though.
more directly, is each step you're working with your client, make sure that you're there. If you stop for a moment before you speak with them, you don't, regardless of what you believe, if you just shut your eyes and just feel your heart and be present for a moment and then speak to them from that presence, there's going to be a lot more of a connection than if you're just running 100 mile an hour. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Because she doesn't feel like she's heard.
Right.
You know, women care about three things. They care about being seen, understood, and protected. We have to know that as men. So we need to create an environment where we give that to them. It's how we help them feel comfortable so that they can open up to us, so we can actually learn these things, so we can serve them at the highest level and guide them in the right direction. Because our ultimate goal here, guys, isn't money. It's the referral, isn't it? It's a good word to another project. Imagine if you never had to pay for marketing. Because I've talked to many students like that. They're like, how do you constantly keep doing it? Well, dude, we just take care of our customers. I'm like, you get it. You get it. If something happens on a project and you're $4,000 over because you missed something, don't try to squirrel that in the end of the project. Own it. Be a man and be like, you know what? We messed up. It's on us. Because if it is something they added, then of course it's billable. But if not, you own it. Learn next time. Adjust your SOPs to find those things earlier. All right, team, how did this happen? How did this one squeak through? It still happens to us at times.
Yeah. I think if you have that long-term vision where you believe like, okay, we're building something that will outlast even my life here, then it's easier to make those decisions. That $4,000 today, 10 years from now, 40 years from now, 100 years from now, do we care about that? No. The right decision is to learn from that mistake, own it, correct it, and let's do better next time.
And then take the compounding effect over the right thing done. What would you want someone to do for you? Tell you some bullshit story about how they didn't tell you this, or that's what that word actually meant. It was actually $4,000 more, but you didn't see it. And then you lose the potential of not just one lead, but the compounding interest of all of those. So 1, 2, 2 to 5, 10, 20 over that time span.
Right.
So if you're not going to care about that in 6 months or 12 months, why do you care about it now? That's simple, to your point.
Yeah.
But you got to be thinking further out, not in a survival mindset. If you're in a survival consciousness, then it's all about just hand to mouth. That's how I started.
Now.
Right? And then after a while, you start thinking, there's plenty for everyone out here. There is no competition. We are all equals. At the end of the day, it's the one who connects with the client the best. So if you constantly are looking at it, how can I connect with my client and serve them at the highest level? And that is the core to your entire offering. You won't lose. You might not get every project, but you won't lose the ones you have. You won't lose the momentum that they bring, because birds of a feather bring others as well.
Yeah, those are some very good points. Thank you. And I've heard already, like, the best marketing you can do is market to your previous and existing clients. So would you have any advice on ways and systems to follow up with your clients to stay connected and maintain those relationships with beings?
Okay. I want to hit this one at a 35,000 foot view first. Okay. So way, 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 way out. And this is something else I learned, Alex, along the way. I always thought I was a landscaping / hardscaping / outdoor living company that marketed, right? I needed to market in order to get work. So I was a thing and I needed to tell people about it so I could do it. Yeah, that didn't get so far. At a certain point, you realize that, I can market all I want, but it's not my focus, right? I think it's Peter Drucker said it best. He's like, no. You are a landscaping, hardscaping, outdoor living, whatever you are. You are not that. You are a marketing company that does hardscaping. You are a marketing company that does landscaping. Look at TechoBlock. They are brilliant. They've taken concrete and made it sexy. It's that simple, but it's all through the marketing. They are a marketing machine first that happens to sell pavers. This is why it works. If you're landscapers, you think about, okay, I am a marketing company that happens to landscape. If your focus shifts just a little bit, everything changes. And then when it comes to cadence, you're asking about how often you retouch with people. And yes, if you've already closed a friend, there's a high probability you'll close the next one too, because they're going to talk highly of you. That's why reviews on Amazon work so well. Because you look at it, you're like, that one has 31,000 reviews. This one has 32,000. I'll go with that one. because you want certainty. One of the 6 basic human needs is certainty. It's the first one. Like, okay, I want certainty. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't want to waste money. So they're going to go with what they know. So that's the easiest pool of people to pull from. How often do you touch on them? Set up an email campaign. Use social media. And don't try to get them to buy something from you. It's not about buying. It's about serving them. Educate them, because they'll come back to you as the expert. Pick up that camera and start talking. God gave you talents that no one else has. Just start spreading them, sharing them, and the right people will come. And you just have to get over the fact that maybe you don't like yourself in a camera. I didn't like myself in a mirror when I was younger. Same thing on a camera. My wife actually broke me out of that. She's like, we have this app. It's called Marco Polo. Let's communicate when I'm traveling. I'm like, no, I'm just going to text you or I'll call you. She's like, no, let's try this. And she's a lot smarter than I am. So she's like, you know, if we do this and you start seeing yourself, her plan was to start seeing yourself talking, it's not that big a deal. So I was like, all right. I love you. I'll do this. After a few weeks of doing it, I'm like, you know, in the beginning, it's kind of awkward. You're like, I'm talking to myself. Yeah. And then after a while, you're like, all right, it's not so bad.
Normal thing.
It's a normal thing. And pretty soon we're sitting on Techo's stage talking to Alex about stuff. A guy that is more scared of public speaking and speaking in general than you'd ever know. But by starting small, picking up that camera, starting to share your gift, knowing that you're already more than enough and you'll develop and grow, dude, that's been one of the most freeing things I've ever done. Because now I can share. And I don't have to think about having the right things to say, because the right things will come to me to say. Because it's not me speaking anyway. So it's this whole journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's all that mindset stuff. I think if you have that growth mindset for anything, all day it's just about growing. Name of the show is Hardscape Growth. Like that's what it is. But if you have that mindset that you can always grow in any direction that you want and to do anything that you want, as long as you believe that it is possible, and it is, then what's to stop you? Just do it. I know it's a very lovey-dovey way of answering your question, but that's kind of it. It's just...
Did I dodge it well enough?
No, that was good. Thank you.
Good?
Yep.
All right. Well, that's it for today's episode, guys. Josh, I want to thank you very much. This has been great. A lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much for listening, everybody. That is it for this episode. That was the Q&A session with Josh from Yes Express. And just a reminder, if you were listening to this but haven't listened to the interview with Josh, just skip back to the previous episode. That's the full interview with Josh from Yes Express. Till next time, everyone, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you next week. You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business, so make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.